Hey there, welcome back to my channel, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about our recent Disney cruise experience to hopefully share some helpful tips that can help you plan a future Disney Cruise Line vacation, share some of our favorite parts, what we want to do again, what we are planning on doing in the future, and just do a general huge recap so hopefully you can take some of that information and use it for your own planning. So first of all, our itinerary that we went on the Disney Magic was a Western Caribbean cruise. This was our first time going on a Western Caribbean cruise and our first time going out of the Port of Galveston. And I did get a number of questions about going out of the Port of Galveston, how we got there, did we use Disney transportation? Yes, we did. So I'm definitely going to talk about that right off the top to answer your questions on that. And then we went to Cozumel for the first time ever. This was Mexico ports, both of them were in Mexico, and also Costa Maya for the first time ever. So really a lot of firsts. It was a really exciting time. I think you could tell on our trip videos, our day in the life travel videos, which I will link down below if you haven't watched all of those. We had an amazing time and it was just so fun to be able to share that. So really a productive trip for me. I got to share a lot of things here on YouTube. I got to share a lot of great different outfit ideas for various Amazon outfits. It was just a really great trip overall. But to answer some of your questions about the trip that you had, and this was a girls trip, it was myself and Isabella, so I knew that I was planning on going to the trip and it just aligned for her to be able to enjoy the experience with me. So it was some really good quality time, really excited to be able to start doing that with the girls one-on-one, and I did talk a little bit more in the individual day videos about that and the plan for that, so I won't focus on that in this video, but I was a little nervous because this was not only the first time traveling with just one of the girls on my own as an adult. So I've traveled as myself, you know, I've gone on, you know, to conferences and things on my own, but this was the first time I'd actually ever traveled with one of the kids on my own, being the only adult. So I was a little nervous about that, but it went wonderfully. She is a great traveler. She's wonderful to help with suitcases and she just helps with all of that. She's 12. And so I really kind of wanted to wait until the girls were around that kind of age 12 to be able to be old enough to understand travel. You know, they know the drill at this point. They've flown a number of times. They know how they can help roll suitcases, picking them up at the luggage, you know, drop off areas. So they understand all that and they kind of understand how to help without having to really be told. So that's why I really wanted to kind of wait till around age 12 to do these sorts of things with them. So now that they are that age, we can start having these experiences, which is great. And so it went wonderfully. So my nervousness all went away. We had a good time. We rented a car in Houston when we flew in. I did fly in the day before because this is one of my biggest tips, regardless of whether you're going by yourself or with your family. Always get into where the location is, where you're going out of the port. So Port Canaveral, get to Orlando. If you're going into Miami, going out of Miami, get to Miami. If you're going out of Galveston, get to Houston. Get in that general region the day before the cruise embarkation day. You want to get there before that day. You do not want to be traveling, especially via plane flight, on the day that your cruise leaves, because it just leaves so much room for something to happen and for you to literally miss the ship leaving from port. So if you have a flight, it's delayed by even a few hours, you could miss your ship. So you don't want to be traveling on the same day that your cruise leaves. So that's my number one tip I will leave you with. If you want to exit the video and you don't want to hear about Mexico, I really wish you would stay, but take that tip, please. Do that. Do not try to travel on the same day that your cruise is leaving because so much just can go wrong. Luckily with this trip, everything went seamlessly. I mean, like, the trip's over and I still want to knock on wood. It just went really, really great. So I was nervous. It was the first time just being with one of the kids on my own. It was the first time going into Houston. I had never been to Houston before. First time going out of Galveston. I had never been to Galveston before. First time going on a cruise with one of the kids, and it all went beautifully. So we flew into Houston the day before the cruise. We stayed at the Marriott at IAH. So here's the reason why we flew into IAH. For Houston, if you're not familiar, there's two different airports. IAH is up in the north, and there's Hobby Airport, which is down in the south. The reason why we flew into Bush International Airport, which the airport code is IAH, is we went there because Disney transportation picks up at IAH. So we wanted to stay there overnight. I stayed at the Marriott. It's attached right to the airport, so it was easy to get to. They had the most adorable train that drove around underneath all the terminals and connected to the Marriott. Isabella just wanted to ride that around. The most adorable train. And that got us over to the hotel. Then that evening we had a little bit of free time, so I rented a car in Houston just kind of on a whim. We have a rental car account that we get rental cars with, so I got a rental car and we drove down to the Space Center. So that was really cool because we got to see one of the local things in Houston, got to see a bit of Houston, drove around a little bit, and that all went very well. Brought the rental car back, dropped it right there off at the airport. Took all the airport transportation, really well laid out. Honestly, I've been in a number of airports and it was really well laid out. I really liked how their rental cars were almost kind of over on an island. If you've ever been to IAH, you'll understand this. If you haven't, it may not make sense. But so the airport terminal was one area. You took a bus to get over to like their rental car island, and it was so easy to get the rental car in and out then because you weren't with all the airport congestion and traffic like you are a lot of times if you're renting a car and it's like directly attached to the airport like it is here in Minneapolis. But really easy to get the rental car, really easy to return the rental car. So if you're in Houston for a short period of time like this coming in for a cruise, get a rental car. It was so easy to get it. So we stayed the night at the IAH Marriott. We stay at Marriott's a lot, so it was everything I would expect it to be. And then when we got up the next morning, Disney Cruise Transportation was picking us up. This was something we had pre-arranged with our travel agent. If you do not use a travel agent for your cruises, I highly recommend that. I have a whole video that I talk about the reasons and benefits of why, but I'll link down below Sierra, who was our travel agent that helped us book this trip. She helped us set up that transportation, and her services don't cost me anything. So for me, it's like a win-win because I could just send her questions about Houston and Galveston and getting transportation, and it's a service that's basically kind of already Disney assumes that cost is going to be in there. So for you, the traveler, you don't have to pay anything extra, which is really, really great. And she set that up for us for Disney Transportation to pick us up at IAH, the airport. And then they drove us down to Galveston, which was about a 45-minute drive or so. Pretty easy drive, not a lot on the drive. It's just interstate the whole way. But when you get down to port, it was what I would maybe consider more of an industrial port. From the area that we saw, we didn't really go into Galveston very much except for just the short area that goes over to the ship. The bus got us into the port area, dropped us right off where we needed to be at the terminal, and so we got from point A at the airport to port where we needed to be to get onto the ship really, really seamlessly, so highly recommend that. They also took us back to the airport when we got off of the ship as well. So again, we've used Disney Transportation at Port Canaveral. We've now used it at Houston and Galveston, and it went really, really well. So I definitely will continue to do that when it's an option. So that was the getting to and fro portion of the trip. Then once you get on the ship, cruises, it's so easy. It's such a great vacation because it's so relaxing. Everything's built in. And we just really, really love it. One of my favorite parts about this cruise, and so for the first time being in the Western Caribbean, I don't really remember this. It could have been the time of year, just a difference there. But we saw so many dolphins on this trip. Dolphins that just love to jump next to the ship. There was pods of dolphins, large groups of them swimming near the ship. We saw dolphins so many times. In fact, you guys even spotted some dolphins that I didn't see when I was there. I would pan out the window, just showing the sea or the water, and you guys would be like, dolphin at such and such minute mark. So that was really fun because you guys found some dolphins that even I didn't see at the time. The most notable one was the embarkation day. Very first day on the ship, I just was looking out at port. We were still at port, and just, kind of showing the Galveston port, and there was a dolphin literally swimming right by. So we saw so many dolphins on this trip. It was really, really neat. Then after you're on the ship, a lot of it is just kind of in the hands of scheduling at that point. You can go find a lot of different activities to do. We had our dining rotation between the different dining areas, and I do definitely want to touch on that because I think that's really what makes the smaller ships, those original ships, the magic and the wonder, really stand out because they have that unique dining. Tiana's Place, which is on the Wonder, Rapunzel's Royal Table, which is on the Magic, which we were just on. Really, really unique, fun restaurants that have have characters and singing and dancing and are just a lot of fun. So we really, really enjoyed that experience. And I would definitely, if I was going to go on the Magic again, is because I want both the kids to experience that dinner show and that time at dinner. They also had Animator's Palette, which is always a really fun one, and they had some interactive things we could do at dinner there. And then Lumiere's, which is a really neat kind of laid back Beauty and the Beast inspired restaurant, had really great food. I got the lobster one night. It was amazing. Loved it. Once we were on the ship, you know, Isabella is a tween. She is 12, getting ready to turn 13. So she's in that tween stage. And so there was a lot of activities for her to do at the Tween Club, which is called Edge. So we went to Edge and checked it out at the open house. And then she really kind of settled in and kind of found her place in Edge. She loves Mario Kart right now. They had Mario Kart tournaments. So pretty much every time I came in, she was playing video games or playing one of the games. They did a lot of interactive, like kind of icebreakers with the kids, like Heroes and Villains is one that I came in that they were doing a number of nights, and the kids really got to interact and kind of learn each other. So it was just a really great experience for her to be able to go and do her own thing on the ship while I was off either doing work or was off exploring the ship as well. I did Disney trivia a number of times. I did bingo once. I tried the little iPad thing, and it was fun to do just because I have a lot of friends that really love the bingo on Disney ships. It was good to do it just to try it once, but it's not necessarily my thing. During the evenings when she was off at the club doing tween activities, her club, I went to the Club Fathoms, which is for adults, went to some hilarious shows, some adult karaoke, and it was just a really good time. And so we had those activities that we could do separately on the ship, but then come together for all of our meals. We went to the pool a number of times. We watched some movies. We hung out in the room. She and I will hang out in the room more than if we have the rest of the crew with us. So we did that a little bit. She watched a good amount of DuckTales while we were on the trip. So that was a little nostalgic for me because that came out when I was a kid. But so we just got some nice chill hangout time. And then our excursions on this trip were especially picked with myself and Isabella in mind. So Isabella and I really love learning. We really love doing hands-on things. We don't have to be like, you know, skydiving and jumping off of things and being like super physically active. Like we can do those things with the rest of the family. But those are best suited, especially when we have my husband and Natalie along. Isabella and I will be very content just to go read signs and learn about things and just really just be able to soak everything in. So the first day we went to Cozumel and got to see a bit of Cozumel, and we went on a joint tour where we actually got to do some alebrijas paintings, which are traditional paintings where you pick an animal, supposed to be aligned with your spirit animal, and you really just kind of put the markings on there that you're drawn to. A lot of lines, a lot of dots. I did some swirls on mine just because I felt like it. But I just really immensely enjoyed that activity. It was just so awesome and just a really like specific to that area activity. And then they took us to the Mayan Cacao Company. This is where cacao, which is basically what we call cocoa, they talk about the origins of it, how it was discovered, how they turned cacao into chocolate and also coffee, and just learned a lot more about that rich history there. So that was really, really cool. We got to taste some like literally handmade right in front of us chocolate, and bought some chocolate, of course, because you're there. So it was just, I mean, such a great, amazing excursion. I would absolutely do that one again. Doing the painting and going to see the chocolate company, I thought it was great. And then, so we got to see a bit of Cozumel that day. We went back to the ship, ate lunch, and then had the rest of the day on the ship because, you know, you have to be back on the ship and it pulls away like at 5 o'clock. So you got to be back on the ship. And then the next day we had an excursion also booked through Disney. Both of our excursions were booked directly through Disney right in the app. And on that day, I was super excited about this, and this was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go on this whole itinerary, was because we were able to see Mayan ruins, and it was just such an amazing time. Like, I love standing next to historic architecture, especially. I love standing next to historic architecture and just thinking about all of the many people that have stood there before me and learning about the different civilizations and cultures that have stood literally there before me. And it's just, I love that. I absolutely love that. And so Isabella's very into learning. She's actually very into mythology as well. So we had some companion books learning about that Mesoamerican mythology, and just, it was a really great learning experience. Also, as a random note, if you ever have a Western Caribbean cruise and you have not watched this show yet, we also watch a lot of Disney Plus. We happened to just randomly, the month before this cruise, National Treasure, the TV show, the Disney Plus show, was released. In the show, I won't spoil it, but in this show, you know, they're searching for a new treasure because it's National Treasure. That's not giving away anything new. But in the show, it's all related back to Mayan, Incan, and Aztec culture and this supposed treasure that they're trying to find that relates back to all of these mythology, symbols, stories, and all of this like rich history from Mesoamerica. So we were watching National Treasure, had already booked the cruise, but National Treasure came out. We were watching it the month before we went, and it literally wrapped, I think the week before we left was the final episode. So we had watched this whole series that really went more in depth. So like we had been researching Mayan history, but it talked more in depth about the Incans and the Aztecs and how they all work together. And it was just so timely because we got to learn like so much more. And then there was literally things that we saw on the show, like there were certain symbols and certain gods and things like that that I saw reflected in different places that we visited, and it was just really, really cool to kind of see those things come together. So that was kind of a random side note, but if you haven't watched that and you do go on a Western Caribbean cruise that has some of these ports and these sorts of educational opportunities while you're there, watch that show because you will learn just a little bit extra, and you'll kind of learn how all of those different civilizations worked together or didn't during that time period. So just really, really great. I really enjoy, and obviously I think Isabella does as well. I took mythology and it focused on Greek mythology, mainly Greek and Roman, in college, and so she has thoroughly enjoyed. She learns about mythology from all different sorts of civilizations. She's read books on Greek, Roman, Japan mythology. She's read, you know, all these different mythology books. So we really enjoy learning about those stories that come from different cultures and really kind of absorbing, you know, all of that information. So that was a really neat part of this trip. That was why this trip was so uniquely tailored to us. And I was really glad to have that experience with her. So if you haven't watched all the travel videos, I highly recommend you check them out. Any Disney cruise is a great cruise, right? So you could put me on any Disney ship and I'm going to have a great time. But this unique experience was perfectly suited to go with Isabella. I did get asked a number of times, do you think that Natalie will go on one? Yeah, I think that I would absolutely do this with Natalie. I think I definitely want her to be at least 12 for whatever, you know, there's kind of like a line in the sand there where I feel like they're old enough to kind of start doing these sorts of things. For Natalie, I'm kind of thinking more it's going to be like an Eastern Caribbean cruise, or we would partake in more like active things like snorkeling and things like that. I'm not to say that Isabella doesn't do those things, but just some excursions that are more tailored towards Natalie's very outgoing, bubbly, and on the move personality. And I think that's really cool that we can have the opportunity now to do that. So anyhow, more to come on that. It's not booked yet or anything. So yeah, I'll talk about that when it happens. But what I do have coming up, this is very rare. In fact, I don't know that this has ever happened, but I'm literally, you guys are finishing watching this video series and I'm going to turn right around and you're going to see another packing series for a retreat that I'm headed to. This is a learning opportunity for myself. I think hopefully if you've taken anything away from this video about me, you can see that I enjoy learning. And so this is a really great opportunity for me to learn in that I literally do every day. I love being around the creative energy of people that do what I do. It's just so very helpful. And so I'm headed to a retreat. And so you normally have like a series of travel videos and then there'll be some kind of like in-between videos where we're at home and doing whatever. But I think the way that it's going to line up is you're literally going to go from this cruise onto the next trip. So surprise! And I am headed to the Magical Media Retreat, which is taking place in Anaheim, California. Another first for me, a lot of firsts this year. Another first for me, it is the first time I've ever been to Disneyland. It will be the first time. I have never been to California. It'll be the first time in California. And it will be my first time going to a retreat, actually. I have been in like kind of those medium-sized conferences and I absolutely love them. But one of my goals for myself this year is I wanted to do a retreat, a really small group, intensive. You need to get something different out of that when you're with a very small group. And so it's a very kind of focused learning. So I'm very excited about that because that's one thing off of my list that I definitely wanted to do. I do have another conference coming up, which is coming up in April, but you will see some kind of, we'll call them in-between videos, between that March trip and that April trip, because that's more down towards the end of the month, but I'm actually in planning mode for that right now too. And that is very exciting. It will be the first time that I've ever gone to Flock, which if you're not in the kind of social media content creator world, it's a content creator conference that really got its upstart pre-COVID. I think they took a break during COVID and now they're back. So I'm very excited about that one, and that one is at Walt Disney World. So in that effect, this somewhat kind of just was a stars align thing, but to celebrate the Disney 100 celebration, which if you don't know, in 2023, Disney is celebrating 100 years of being a company. They were established in 1923. So coincidentally or happily enough, I will be in 2023 on a Disney cruise at Disneyland at Walt Disney World. Those are all for sure. Now all I need to work out is Alani, just putting those vibes out into the world. And I will have been on all of those different Disney properties during their D100 celebration. So it's very, very exciting. Also, if you have a cruise coming up later on this year in 2023, there's a mini celebration in the middle of the year, 25 years at sea for Disney Cruise, just to kind of keep this cruise focused. 25 years at sea, so I don't know when our next cruise is going to be yet. I'm trying to get all of my conference schedules lined up because I'm also planning on being at TBEX later in the year. So if you're someone that goes to TBEX, I'm planning on being there also. It's going to be a big learning year for me. But I'm trying to get my conference schedule and some of our kind of other keystone events on the calendar, and then there might be another cruise in there somewhere. We love cruising. We all love cruising, so it's always a good time. Well, hopefully you've gotten some helpful nuggets. If you didn't get anything out of this video, please just plan to travel at least a day or more ahead of when your cruise is leaving. Don't miss your cruise because your plane got delayed. And I hope you're having a great day. I will see you in my next series of videos directly following this, which is going to be me at Disneyland for the first time. These are my Disney 100 nails, so I'm a little bit excited. I'm excited to learn, excited to meet new people, and excited to have some more new experiences. So thanks for watching today, and have a great day.